Oh, no doubt. Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. Good morning. I want to just begin by saying to everyone in Mississippi and across this country that we are praying for our fellow Americans in California and the wildfires that they are dealing with. It's obviously, I was just out in Pasadena in the middle of last week, and it's a really scary situation, and we're hopeful that those fires get under control sooner rather than later. I would also like to wish Elvis a happy 90th birthday. Mississippi is the birthplace of America's music, and we literally have thousands and thousands and thousands of people from all over the globe that come and visit Elvis's home in Tupelo, and we hope that continues. Today is a historic day for the state of Mississippi, and it's something that I'm very proud of. I'm very proud of these two individuals standing behind me, our two chairmen in the House and the Senate, and the work that they have done. We have all worked very hard to position our state at the forefront of technology. And thanks to everyone's effort and to the hard work of people in this room and people across our state, Mississippi continues to accomplish incredible things in the 21st century. Whether it's landing the $10 billion private sector investment by AWS for two state-of-the-art data center complexes, manufacturing cutting-edge ships and rocketry for our military, or constructing 21st century energy infrastructure like the Delta Blues Advanced Power Station, Mississippi is experiencing technological innovation like never before. Make no mistake, Mississippi is quickly becoming a major technology hub in the southeastern United States, but quite frankly, we're becoming a technology hub for America. One of the most rapidly expanding technologies, of course, is artificial intelligence, or AI. AI has the potential to do incredible things for our state, for our people, and for our country. But while technology and advancements are a good thing, its implementation and its utilization must be done in a thoughtful way and in a responsible manner. While AI has the potential to assist our state in countless ways, it is critical that appropriate safeguards be put in place to protect Mississippians and to protect our privacy. That's why today I am pleased to announce that I will be signing Executive Order Number 1584, Mississippi's first EO pertaining to AI. This executive order does several things to evaluate this technology and its potential utilization in a thorough and responsible way. First, it directs the Mississippi Department of Technology Services to conduct an inventory of all AI technologies being planned, being piloted, being acquired, being developed, and or being utilized by each and every state agency. Second, it directs ITS to evaluate the processes, the guidelines, and or the uses of AI currently in place at each and every state agency. Third, it directs ITS to coordinate with state agencies to develop policy recommendations for the agency's responsible use of AI. This includes principles, guidelines, and criteria to govern the acquisition, the development, and the utilization of AI by each and every state agency. And finally, it directs ITS to engage with public and private sector stakeholders to advise and or provide recommendations as needed on best practices, on best uses, on strategies, and on all other related tasks. This EO also makes clear that policy recommendations for the acquisition of and the use of AI shall be rooted in the principles of innovation, privacy, security, safety, and accountability, just to name a few. AI has the potential to help our state, and it has the potential to really help our people. It can help Mississippi continue its momentum, and it can help us attract even more record-breaking private sector capital investment. We are excited for its potential. However, Like anything new, it is critical that this technology be utilized and implemented responsibly and carefully. My EO will help Mississippi embrace AI in ways that ensure our continued technological advancement while also maintaining privacy and security for our state and our fellow Mississippians. This EO is needed, and I am proud to sign it today. And we'll have some time for some more pics later, I'm sure. Okay, it is now signed and official. And so before I open things up to questions, I want to thank a few people and then open the floor for a couple of comments. First, I want to thank ITS Executive Director Craig and State Chief Information Officer Dr. Craig Orgeron. Unfortunately, he is not feeling well and was unable to be here with us today, but we do have two members of his team. I know Stephanie Hedgepeth as well as Brian Norwood are here, so thank you all both for being here, and thank you for all of the work that you have done to get us to this point. I want to particularly thank the two chairmen that are standing beside me and behind me, as well as the members of the legislature. It was much of the work that they have done in their hearings in the off-season that brought all parties together, those in the executive branch of government, the legislative branch of government, those in the private sector that helped get us to this day. And I want to thank both of them, specifically Mississippi House Technology Committee Chairman, Representative Jill Ford, as well as the Chairman of the Mississippi Senate Technology Committee, Senator Bart Williams. I'm going to begin and turn the floor over to Representative Ford. Would you like to say a few words?
I would. Thank you. Governor Reeves, I applaud your proactive steps to responsibly integrate artificial and intelligent technologies into our government operations. Governor Reeves' executive order on AI reflects our commitment to modernizing state services, improving efficiency, and safeguarding the privacy and security of all Mississippians. This directive ensures the ethical and transparent use of AI while recognizing its transformative potential and the need to address associated risk. By implementing a statewide inventory of artificial intelligence systems and developing robust policies, we aim to harness innovation while upholding citizen trust and aligning with our state's values. Once again, Governor Reeves, thank you for your visionary leadership in keeping citizens safe while advancing the progress of our state. As Technology Chair in the House, I look forward to continuing to work with your staff to make sure these efforts run smoothly. And as I do believe the ITS will manifest these dreams of ours. So thank you so much for ITS as well.
Thank you, Representative Ford. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Senator Williams for a few remarks. Senator?
Thank you, Governor. I appreciate it. I'll be brief. I'll be just kind of reiterate what the governor said. One, I want to thank the governor and his leadership and MDA. What they've done is you've seen a lot of private sector people have come, and I suspect many more are coming. Chair Ford and I this last year have spent the year going all over the country trying to learn about artificial intelligence and other technology things. And when we started that journey, I made the comment several times is we're going to become a technology destination. I was so wrong. We are a technology destination because of the leadership of our governor and his agencies in doing that. We were in California last month where all the tech companies come in, a lot of legislators come in, and in some of the panel discussions, there was one state mentioned, our state, and what Amazon's coming here and what's doing. It's an exciting time, a very exciting time to be in technology. I think we've got the best jobs under the dome over there because so many things are happening. And with AI, as we've learned that, and as we go and we stand behind the governor ready to create policy when we need to on the safeguards that we need to do. Other things we learn, Mississippi leads in cybersecurity in the nation, one of the leaders in the world, in my opinion. Artificial intelligence, as we talked about, there are 3 universities in this nation that have a degree. Mississippi State University is one of them. So we are poised just to continue to leapfrog in the technology world. And again, I thank the governor for his leadership, and we stand ready. Thank you, Governor.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
As you can see, there's been a lot of effort and work by a lot of different people into getting us to where we are today. What we also know is that this executive order is the first step in getting us to where we need to get. But just as technology changes, the need for us to do more work is going to continue to evolve in the days and weeks and months and years to come. And I'm very, very pleased that we have a joint effort really focused on what can we do not only to help our state government agencies, but also to continue to position Mississippi to grow economically. It's exciting to me when I meet with individual companies across our state that are already investing in their own AI efforts, when they're already our institutions of higher learning in our community colleges. For an example, the Maine initiative that is being run initially out of Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, and the efforts that they're doing in training our people for the work that is going to be done in technology and in the AI space. It's a really exciting time in Mississippi, and I appreciate it. So what I'm going to do for all of our members of the press, if you have any questions on this particular initiative, on AI, on technology, let's ask those first. And then I'm sure my 2 friends behind me don't want to have to stand up here while y'all ask all the other questions, because they may not agree with everything I have to say, and so I hate for them to be in the shot if they have to. So let's focus on that initially, and then we'll let them sit down or get on. So, yes, ma'am.
Governor, large-scale AI models and data centers use a tremendous amount of energy. Are you concerned that such developments will impact our power capacity to the point that consumers will be adversely affected?
Well, thank you for asking that question, and because of what I will tell you is, it is the question that should be being asked of every executive in every government in America. The availability of power, whether you've been successful at winning projects like we have, or if you have not, is looking into the future. What is going to be the availability of power in your state for large-scale projects? Because not only do data centers require an enormous amount of power, all large major projects require an enormous amount of power. I'll give you an example. The project that is being done, I just flew into Columbus, Mississippi a month or so ago to announce another investment by Stark Aerospace. But the project that is right there off to the west of the Columbus airport is Aluminum Dynamics, an enormous user of power. If you go to Marshall County, the major project that we worked with the legislature to get funded and to get done in Marshall County, the joint venture on the electric batteries for large-scale trucks at Daimler, at PACCAR, at Accelera by Cummins, a huge consumer of power. And so the question that you ask is, I think, important. It's maybe even more important for us because we've had so much success in economic development. We've announced the $2.5 billion project in Columbus. We've announced the $2 billion project in Marshall County. We've announced the $10 billion project here. And so it's a question that we have worked very hard on. We've worked very, very hard with our utility providers. I think Mississippi is very well positioned to be a winner in this new world of onshoring more manufacturing. And one of those reasons is because we have high-quality utility providers in our state. We have a Public Service Commission that we've worked very closely with in the last year that are focused on this issue as well. And just to give you one example of what our administration has been successful in working with the private sector to make happen is exactly what I mentioned in my remarks earlier, and that is the new Delta Blues power station in Washington County, a nearly $1.2 billion capital investment by Entergy, which is going to produce in its initial form about 750 megawatts of additional power for people in the Entergy footprint, which is a part of western Mississippi. And so the other reason I think that the Mississippi is uniquely positioned is because we have not one, but we have 3 different utility providers in our state. And so we're having these conversations with our friends at Mississippi Power, in addition to Entergy, as well as our friends at TVA. And so when you think about where we find ourselves, I think we are well positioned. I know we've spent the last several years positioning ourselves, and I think you'll see over the next year or so even more conversations about additional strategies that we as a state can implement, because we don't just want to win in economic development in 2024 and 2025. We want to set up our state so that we can continue to win in 2034 and 2035 and beyond. And the availability of power is certainly going to be a piece of that.
Governor, can you talk about any kind of timeline expected on this inventory, if you will, when you're talking about the risk and security, and if state agencies are already, for instance, running data through some type of AI platform that's not state controlled?
I'm sure our friends at ITS don't want to hear this, but yesterday is the time frame, as is always the case. But the reality is that it is going to take a little bit of time. But I think, I had a cabinet meeting yesterday, and these are issues that we have been talking about as a government for a long time. And so what I think you will find is individual agencies have a lot of this information and a lot of this data at their fingertips. What we don't have is it aggregated so that we understand the risk for all of state government. And so I think that cumulative process is going to take some time. We need to all be honest with ourselves and recognize that as we put this data together, the marketplace 120 days from now is going to be different than it is today. The marketplace today is different than it was 1 year ago today. And so this is going to be a constant effort, and one that's not going. This is not one of those exercises where, hey, we can see the end of the tunnel and we'll be through it in a week or two. It's going to be ever evolving. The time frame is always as soon as possible on each of these items. But the reality is protecting individuals' privacy, etc., having accountability, that's something that's going to last in perpetuity. And so that's how I see it.
Just for clarity's sake, obviously you can only direct state agencies, but if you mentioned stakeholders, so we're looking at what's happening already in state agencies in terms of AI usage, but also how it could apply to these larger efforts like you were talking about with Amazon and everyone else. Is that correct?
Right. Well, I will tell you this, based upon my appreciation of the conversations that have been happening over the last 24 to 48 hours when this particular EO came to light. I don't think there's going to be a shortage of folks in the private sector that want to be engaged and involved in providing recommendations and information. We are fortunate in where we find ourselves today, which is very different than where we were 5 years ago. We do have those relationships in the private sector now. We do have a lot of companies that are investing here now. We have a lot of homegrown companies that have done significant work in this space. And so, I'll just tell you, I've had, when the two chairmen had their committee meetings and different folks from the private sector flew in, I had a lot of conversations with many of those individuals, and particularly when it comes to training of the workforce, Mississippi and Maine puts us way ahead of where most every other state in the country is. And so, maybe it hadn't always been the case that Mississippi is a leader, but in technology and innovation and in training of workforces for the future, I think Mississippi is very well positioned. And I think you'll see more and more efforts by us as a government to help facilitate more and more CapEx in our state. Yes, ma'am.
You know, the AI, of course, can lead to workforce displacement. How can you ensure that Mississippians won't be negatively impacted by this?
Well, look, technology has certainly played a role in not necessarily displacement, although there may be displacement in the short run, but technology in our economy has been responsible for shifts and movement in employment opportunities for basically the entirety of the United States of America. I mean, oh, by the way, we didn't have automobiles of any kind in the U.S. 250 years ago, and so when we were founded. And so the reality is there is going to be some disruption. I don't anticipate there's going to be significant disruption in the short term for any specific employees that work for state government. Look, the reality is when I became lieutenant governor in January 2012, Mississippi had 34,000 state employees. Today we have just over 24,000, and we have more today than we had 4 years ago. But the fact is, I don't anticipate there being significant disruption because of this effort amongst the number of state employees.
Hunter Dawkins with the neighborhood that has a question.
Thank you, Shelby. Thank you, Governor. Just a quick question for you, Governor. Now, the bringing in the services, bringing in these new businesses, technological businesses, and all the things that have done aside, is this one of the ways that you can help set your agenda for cutting the income tax, at least that you spoke about?
Well, look, there's no doubt that as we look to the future, being smart in our government expenditures is going to play a role in how much revenue needs to be taken in by the state, how much revenue doesn't need to be taken in. And so, yeah, it all plays a role. I think, there's a lot of conversations around why did we go from 34,000 state employees down to 24,000 and some change over the last 12 to 13 years. And one of the reasons for that is because we're trying to right-size government. We certainly want to provide the services that the statutes require that we provide, but we want to do it in the most cost-efficient manner possible, and technology is one way in which to drive down costs, and I think this initiative will help lead to that. Before I just want one final comment, because I want everybody in the room and everyone in the state to sort of understand where we find ourselves from a geographic standpoint. As you know, it was almost exactly 1 year ago that we announced AWS investing at least $10 billion in Madison County. Since that time, XAI has announced a major initiative in Memphis, about 3 miles north of the Mississippi state line. You can imagine the number of people who work there that either live or play in North Mississippi. Since we announced AWS in Central Mississippi, Meta has announced a major capital investment about 50 miles west of the Mississippi state line, about 50 miles west of Vicksburg. And I think you'll see in the coming months that we will make additional investments of new CapEx coming into and around our state. And the reality is, right here in Central Mississippi, we are uniquely positioned to not only train the workforce for those entities, but also continue to benefit from them. And it's an exciting time. So with that, I'm going to let these two sit down, and then we'll go to any other questions you may have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. And again, a big thank you to all of our legislators who are on the technology committees in the House and the Senate for their support in this effort. So with that, we'll turn it over to other easy questions that y'all have. Yes, sir.
Governor, we are just under 2 weeks away from the start of the second Trump administration, and we're also in the second day of the legislative session. Medicaid expansion will be one of the major issues. The Lieutenant Governor yesterday said he's already been in contact with CMS about the prospect of approving a work requirement. Does the prospect of a more likely approval under the Trump administration change your calculus at all? And have you been in contact with CMS or members of the agency thus far?
Well, I would just say to you that, or to anyone, that I probably wouldn't bank a lot on anyone that currently works at CMS and what their opinion may or may not be about what the policies of the Trump administration are going to be. I do think that we're going to have new leadership. I think it's a fact that that the United States of America has about a $6 trillion budget, and $660 billion a year is spent on Medicaid, and about $850 billion a year is spent on Medicare. So somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 33% of the entire federal budget is is being spent on one of those two programs. And I don't think there's any doubt that don't think there's a disagreement that there are about a $2 trillion deficit in the federal government. There's a $36 trillion national debt. And I think you're going to see this administration, particularly in the Department of Government Efficiency, take the opportunity to look for ways in which to balance our federal budget, and I think that's important. And so to your point as to whether or not I have spoken with anyone in the Trump administration, the answer to that is yes, and I intend to speak directly with the president again tomorrow, and we'll continue to have those conversations.
And are you speaking to him about Medicaid expansion or just in general?
Well, I don't know that I want to go into any specifics as to what our conversations may or may not be, but I can assure you that the things that are of a concern to me and to the conservative voters of Mississippi will be the kind of conversations that we're having, and how federal policy affects those decisions. Yes, ma'am.
Governor, with it getting colder outside, will the state
You've noticed that too, huh?
Yeah, freezing. Will the state be taking any types of precautions or any measures?
Well, look, there's no doubt that I received my first weather report about potential weather on Thursday and Friday and Saturday about a week ago, and so we are at the Department of Emergency Management, MEMA. We have started the process of making sure that we are prepared for any inclement weather that we may get. I have not seen an update this morning yet, but the latest that I saw late yesterday afternoon is that there are real concerns of precipitation in our state, primarily northwest of here. If you look at the state of Arkansas, it is expected that they could see pretty significant snow and or sleet or both. And you think about where Mississippi's counties are that kind of are due east of Arkansas is a really good place to start on where it's most likely that we'll get inclement weather. There are chances here in central Mississippi. There's a chance of snow and or sleet in Jackson Metro, but the more likelihood is that something like that happens somewhere in the neighborhood of just south of Greenville up to Marshall County and northwest of there. But yes, we are monitoring it very, very closely. Yes, sir.
Does the December tax revenues concern you, especially the $164 million projected shortfall in corporate tax?
I don't ever get concerned about any 1 month of anything, okay? And so, 1 month does not make a trend. If you dig down deeper and actually look at what happened in specifically December, but really the entire first 6 months of this particular fiscal year compared to last, individual income tax is meeting expectations. Sales taxes are meeting expectations. the major driver of December's underperformance is corporate income tax. Almost exclusively, maybe even more than 100% of what it is down was corporate income tax. As you know, corporations have the ability to maneuver more so than most of us individuals in terms of our payment schedule. For instance, most of us as individuals have a pay stub in which we take out monthly payments. Usually corporations, they may make quarterly payments, but by and large, they have lots of accountants and they make payments whenever they choose to. So again, it's mostly corporate income tax, and there's nothing in our economy that would suggest that corporate income taxes should be 100 million shy. But again, I'll also tell you, I've been watching state revenues now for 22 years, and corporate income taxes are probably the least easily projected. And so we certainly need to monitor it over the next couple of months. But again, not 1 month, because oftentimes it's just a timing issue.
Can you remind us where you are on proposals to cut the grocery tax? Each Speaker White and the Lieutenant Governor have their own respective proposals.
My priority is the elimination of the income tax. My priority is the elimination of the income tax because I believe very strongly that it would lead to significant economic development in our state. I believe it would lead to significant capital investment in our state, and I believe it would lead to more population growth in our state. I believe that if you look at Texas and Tennessee to our north and Florida to our east, all three of which have no income tax, all three of which have seen significant population gains over the last 10 to 20 years, if we want to compete in the future, then I believe we should eliminate our income tax. Now, in 2024, we competed with all three of those states, and in many measures, we actually won time and time again against them. If you look, for instance, at our third quarter GDP growth, the most recent quarter that we have data, Mississippi's third quarter GDP growth was 5.1%. That made us third best in America. The third highest GDP growth in America in the third quarter of 2024 was in Mississippi. We weren't 47th. We weren't 49th. We were third best in America. So we are competing, even, I would argue, when they have some advantages that we don't otherwise have. So my priority is to eliminate the income tax. There are those that want to reduce the sales tax on groceries. I always laugh, particularly when people in the media talk about the grocery tax. We don't have a grocery tax in Mississippi. We have a sales tax on all items that are purchased, and that includes all items that are purchased in the grocery store. Having said that, if a bill comes to my desk that doesn't raise any other taxes, that cuts the grocery tax and cuts the income tax, I'm fine with that. I believe that we ought to focus on the income tax first and foremost, because I think that's what's going to put more money in individuals' pockets. I think we need more people in the workforce in Mississippi. We need more people working in Mississippi, and the best way to get more people working is to eliminate the tax on work. And so I support that. If it is the desire of both chambers to eliminate the income tax and cut the sales tax on any other thing, I'm certainly willing to consider that. Courtney Ann.
Governor, the House has said that they would like part of their comprehensive tax reform package to include ways to have a dedicated stream of revenue for MDOT. The speaker saying the other day he wouldn't even be opposed if that included an increase on gas tax. What conversations, if any of you, had with Executive Director White about that dedicated stream of revenue and the needs to figure something out that's different?
Well, I've had a number of conversations with the Executive Director of the Mississippi Department of Transportation as recently as yesterday. I've also had many conversations with the Speaker of the House on what their topics are. I think there's no doubt that we need to put together a long-term, serious, responsible plan that adequately funds the areas of state government that need to be funded. but there's a way in which to do that and eliminate the income tax. Just as a reminder, so everybody understands sort of the bottom line numbers. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear this and they don't want to get into the details, and I get all that. In 2019, the state budget was $5.8 billion. $5.8 billion. This year, last year, we'll start with last year because we actually collected. Now we're dealing with, as was pointed out earlier, 6 months of actual collections and 6 months of expected collections in our fiscal year. Last fiscal year, we collected $7.8 billion. We collected $2 billion more than state government operated on in 2019. We collected $800 million more, $7.8 billion, than the $7 billion that the legislature appropriated out of the general fund last year. There's $800 million right there that we could reduce the income tax by $800 million immediately and level fund everything in state government, if that's what we want to do. I'm not advocating that we should level fund because, again, in 2019 we funded it at $5.8 billion. And so I just believe that the best strategy for Mississippi is for us to get our tax code more competitive with those states that we compete with. It's not, by the way, unlike what we tried to do on workforce development. We had to work hard with our friends in the legislature to fix our workforce development system when I came in as governor. We all recognized that we were falling behind other states. We have worked, I'm talking about what feels like day and night, on workforce development, workforce training with the House and the Senate, with the creation of the Accelerate Mississippi, with the appointment of private sector individuals to help oversee that. And, at the end of the day, if you really focus on what's important and you make sure you're improving, you can make real progress. Just literally in the last couple of days, Site Selection Magazine came out and ranked the various workforce training programs in various states. Last year, Mississippi was ranked 4th in the Southeast. This year, we were ranked 3rd in the Southeast. Only 2 states in the Southeast ranked higher than us, and quite honestly, none of them are Arkansas, Louisiana, or Alabama. And so all of which have been working every day and every week and every month with really smart people trying to improve their workforce systems as well. And so we can make this happen. We just got to commit to it. We got to quit making excuses. We got to quit saying but. We need to eliminate the income tax, and we need to do it in a reasonable amount of time, and we need to have a plan that ensures that those various areas of government that need to be funded are funded. And, I think any investments in infrastructure are positive. I've been proud to, I was standing on this very stage some 3 or 4 years ago, along with some of the transportation officials, and recommended that we significantly increase our funding at MDOT through the one-time monies that had been collected for capacity projects. And I was very proud this year to stand when the groundbreaking occurred up in Tippah County on Highway 15 as an example. The legislature has funded significant infrastructure in capacity in Lafayette County, particularly there on Highway 7. The legislature and I have proposed, and they have funded significant increases in DeSoto County, which needs to continue. And so we've got certainly some needs out there, and we need to continue funding them. Some in the transportation space say they need $350 to $400 million more a year. I will just tell you, I got elected in 2003, and in 2003 they needed about $350 or $400 million more a year. And in 2018, when we increased funding by about $200 million a year through the lottery and other avenues, the ERBR, for instance, they needed about $350 to $400 million more a year. 6 years ago, we did about half that. So there's always going to be a recurring need, and particularly those in the industry are always going to ask for that. And I think that there's a way in which to find that dedicated revenue source, much like we did with the lottery in 2018. seeing no other questions, again, I want to thank everyone for being here, and y'all have a great day. Thank y'all.